Hi guys, Rich here from MeatMadeSimple.com.
Hi guys, this is Bill from MeatMadeSimple.com.
And today we're going to be taking a whole chicken. Got a whole chicken here. We're going to be taking this thing, cutting it up into its individual pieces. At the end of the day, you'll have boneless, skinless breasts, boneless, skinless thighs, a drumstick, some wings, and then a bunch of leftover parts that'll be great for making a chicken stock. So Dad, why don't you go ahead and walk us through what it means to break down this chicken and turn it into its individual pieces.
Will do, Rich, thanks. Hey, now here's your whole chicken. I've already taken it and removed it from the package. And we want to make sure though that you take a look inside, because there'll be some livers, gizzards, and the backbone. I personally like the liver and I like the gizzard. In this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the liver aside and the backbone. The neck. I'm sorry, the neck. I'm going to put over here in my container that we're going to add to it such things as the backbone that we're going to go ahead and make some soup, and that'll be later. So okay, so here's your whole chicken, and just for a little bit, would be the whole chicken as he stood up. His wings would be flapping, his two legs would be kind of walking around, and he's eating, and he's having a good time. So this is the breast portion, this is the back portion, and again, as he was standing up, he'd be like that. Now I like to cut the wings off first, so I bring the wings towards me like this. But to help you, what I'm going to ask you to do is put your finger about right in here, and you move that wing. You can feel that joint. You can feel it moving, and that's where you're going to put your knife and you're going to cut that wing off. Now, one thing you want to make sure is that you cut straight down towards the table and expose that joint. And again, if you see here, you can see that joint right there. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting through that wing, and you'll see that now I've got the one wing removed, and I'm going to go over here and turn my chicken, and again I'm going to feel that joint where it's at as I'm moving it, and I can feel that movement in there, and I'm going to go ahead and cut right through that joint, exposing it, and then just go ahead and remove the wing like that. I'm going to set these aside for now. We're going to come back to them here in just a little bit. Now my next cuts will be, I'm going to turn the chicken over like this, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to remove the drums and the thighs. I'm going to start with this one on this side, and you can see right here there is some loose skin, and that's what's kind of holding that drum and thigh to the body of the chicken. I'm going to slice it, and when I do, look, I've exposed that area now where the skin was kind of holding it together. I'm going to cut it a little bit more off to expose all that. And now instead of cutting, I can just hold the body with my right hand like this, and I'm just going to kind of pop that drum and thigh off. And you can see the femur bone. This is the end of the femur bone right here, and it goes here. You can see now I've exposed that, and that is the joint that I'm going to go ahead and cut through. However, before I remove it totally, take a look right underneath here. There is a small piece of lean muscle that goes onto the backbone. I'm going to make sure I cut through that and then pick that all up. And there, I've removed the drum and the thigh from the body of the chicken. For now, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to come back to it. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the same thing to the other leg. I'm going to cut that loose skin, make sure that I get it all cut. And when I do, I just hold the body of the bird, pop that leg bone out, the femur bone shows up, and then I'm going to cut right through that joint. And now again, I've got a drum and a thigh right there. Again, I'm going to lay it aside, and I'll come back to that here in just a couple minutes. Now I've got the backbone, and I've got the full chicken breast. So what I'm going to do is, next step is we're going to separate those two. And you'll see we've got some loose skin right here. I want to try and get most of it over onto the breast area. And now I've exposed the backbone. Here are the ribs of the chicken. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come alongside that backbone just like this. Put your knife right there next to the backbone and make a real quick, hard cut straight down to the cutting board, just like that. And now I'm going to come over on the other side, and you see that, and then I'm going to make a real quick and hard cut just like that. And look, I've removed the backbone. I'm going to set that over here with the neck that I took out earlier, and that's going to eventually, I'm going to use that for some soup or some chicken broth that I'm going to plan on making. Now, we're here with what is called the full chicken breast. You can see, just like we started. Now, on the inside is what is called the breastbone. Goes right here, and then the rib bones are right here. What I like to do is take, and the breastbone has got a little white tip on the end. If you cut on either side of that, just like this, that kind of expose that, and then you take your thumbs and your hand and you just pop it out just like that. Now, you can use your thumb. I'm going to have to use my knife a little bit to kind of help expose that a little bit better. And what you've done now is you've taken that breastbone, take your thumbs and run it right alongside there. And you'll see that I've got the breastbone, the hard bone, as well as this white little cartilage. I've got it exposed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab that and hold on to the breast and pull that bone out. And as you can see, there's the bone that I pulled out. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the container with my backbone and my neck bone, and we're going to make broth later on today. Now what I like to do is, this is the full chicken breast. What I like to do is go ahead and let's just cut this in half. Now there's still one little bone in there, and that bone is really the wishbone. Everybody here has probably heard of the wishbone. So when you cut through here, you're going to cut through all the lean, and you'll have that one little bone, and you're going to cut through it. And I've got two half, and what is commonly called the chicken split breasts, and they'll look like this. A lot of times you can buy them just as they are, like this, called the chicken split breasts. Now, for today, I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to save them like this. I'm going to go ahead and make them boneless and skinless. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to turn them over. And we talked earlier about this being the rib bones. I'm going to go ahead and put my knife right underneath the rib bones. And I'm going to make sure that I stay my knife as close to the bones as possible. And I'm going to continue to trim that knife, or take the knife and trim it against those bones, so that when you can see right here is the breastbone. I get my knife underneath there, and then it all comes out. There's my rib bones, and I've pulled them out, and now I've got a boneless chicken breast, and I'm going to take those rib bones and put them with the back bones and the neck bones, and we're going to make broth here in a little bit. Now let's pull the skin off of this breast here. As you can see, it's the skin on the other side, and I'm just going to grab this at the one end, and I'm going to gently pull it, and you'll almost be able to pull it off totally. It will be attached, and then I'll just grab it and grab my knife and cut it off. And again, I'll take that skin and fat and put it over there with my neck bones. In the same way I'll finish trimming this up a little bit, looking for any little pieces of maybe some gristle anything that maybe I left on there, and I don't really see anything that's on there. Now, everybody has heard of the chicken tender. If you turn the breast over on the inside, you'll see a little piece of gristle that goes down through here, and that is attached to a piece of meat that lays right there on the breast, and you can pull it out totally, as you can see here. Just nick it a little bit with your knife and continue to pull, and you see there's your chicken tender, and then there is the boneless, skinless chicken breast. Now let's do the same thing to this other chicken breast. We've got the bones in there. You can see the bones, the rib bones going here. The only one that is a little bit of an opportunity is the wishbone, and it's right back in this area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knife underneath those bones, keeping them as close to the bones as I can, and continue to work my knife, keeping as much lean meat, as much meat as I possibly can onto that chicken breast. And when I get to the little bone right here, which is called part of the wishbone, I'll lift it up. I'm going to put my knife underneath there, cut through that, and again, I'll put that over in my container so that I can make chicken broth later on this evening. I'll go back through here and make sure that I've picked off any maybe little pieces of bone that I possibly could have missed. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the chicken breast over, skin side up, and like we did before, I'm just going to pull that skin, and most of it will come off by itself. Where it doesn't, I'm just going to take my knife and just nick the little pieces that are up holding it on. And again, I've got the skin that I'm going to put in my container for broth later. Turn the chicken breast back over, and on the inside here, you'll see that little piece of gristle. And with that, I'm going to pull that chicken tender out of there. It almost comes out by itself, but I'm going to use my knife just to kind of help it. I'm going to continue to pull, and I'm going to nick that knife in there. Now I've got two chicken breast tenders, and those are both boneless and skinless, and they'll be very delicious on tonight or on tomorrow's dinner. I'm going to set them aside for right now, and as I told you earlier, we're going to come back to the chicken thighs and chicken drumsticks. As you see, these two are still hooked together. We talked earlier about this being the femur bone, and the femur bone right here is hooked to the leg bone. And where it's hooked on, you can feel it, where that joint is. You're going to put your knife down through that joint, but also a good indicator, there's a little vein of fat that goes right through here. So you'll want to take that fat and use it as a guide, as well as moving that muscle. And you can say, okay, right there is where that joint is, and take your knife and go right down through, separating the drum and the thigh. Now let's do it again here on the other one. Again, here's that little vein of fat, and by moving it, I can see, or I can feel that joint where it's at. Now that I use the fat as a guide and I know where that joint is, I'll take my knife and I'll just go right down through there. And again, I've got two thighs and two drums. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the drumsticks. I'm going to set them aside because I'm really done with those. But now on the thighs, I could be done with them. That would look, there's your boneless, or those are your chicken thighs. But I'm going to go ahead for today, and I'm going to take this femur bone out simply by, okay, here's one end of it, here's the other end of it, and the bone is in between here. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go right alongside of the femur bone like that on one side, and then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go on the other side. By going on both sides, now I can take my fingers and almost pull the whole thing out, but I've exposed the center portion just like this, and now I can take my knife and go underneath both ends, and looky there, I've pulled that bone out. I'm going to take the bone, put it in for my broth, and now I've got a boneless thigh. But I'm going to go ahead one step further and make it a boneless, skinless thigh. Again, just like the chicken breast, I'm going to grab that skin, pull it off. You can almost pull it totally off, except for right there at that one little spot where I'm going to take my knife and cut it. That meat then, or that skin, will go in for my chicken broth. And there is my boneless, skinless thigh. I'm going to set it aside, and let's do it again on this other thigh. Again, there's the two ends of the bone. It runs right here, the femur bone does. I'm going to cut it on one side. I'm going to cut it on the other side. And by doing that, I'm able to put my fingers underneath there and expose the center part. Now my knife will cut the meat that's attached to the two ends. I'm going to put the bone for broth. There's the boneless thigh. I'm going to turn it over, grab the skin here and pull on it, and it almost all comes off. And I can cut the rest of it off, put the skin aside. And now I've got my two boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Now, as we talked earlier, let's go back to the wings. Here's the whole wing. And again, I'm going to use my one finger here to feel that that's where that joint is. I'm going to make this wing into three separate pieces. The wing tip, the center portion, and then the drumstick or the drumette. So here is, I can feel that joint. I'm going to, now that I know where it's at, take my knife and cut right through that. That wing tip, I'm going to put it in with the stuff that I'm going to use for my chicken broth. And then again, the same way here, go to this little flap or skin that holds these two portions together. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that. And when I do, now I can really feel where that joint's at. So I'm going to move it with my one hand. I can feel my finger there, and that's where the joint is. And I can just put my knife right down through there, and I've got two pieces of wings there. Now, let's do the same thing with the other wing. I can feel that joint. By being able to feel that joint, I can put my knife right down through there. Uh-oh, there we got it. See, I missed it just a little bit. But now, then here, I'm going to go ahead, cut this little flap of skin. And again, I can feel that joint where it's at. I can feel as I move it where that joint is at. Knowing that, now I come back with my knife and I put my knife right through the joint, and I've got my two pieces of wings. There's my 4 wings. There's my 2 boneless, skinless chicken thighs, the 2 boneless, skinless chicken breast, and my 2 boneless, skinless chicken tenders. And here I've got my bones and some skin that I can use and going to make my own broth. In addition to that, I don't want to forget the drumsticks. They're ready to go, and I'm going to have a great dinner for tomorrow night. What I like about this is it does seem like it's a fresher product. I'm able to go to the store, buy the whole chicken, cut it up myself, have that pride, and I think you're going to save a little bit of money too. Rich, back to you.
Yeah, so there we go, guys. I don't know what that took us, 5 or 10 minutes to process a whole chicken, break it down into its individual parts. You got boneless, skinless breast, boneless, skinless thighs. So yeah, we want to thank you for coming out and joining us. Hope you found this helpful. If you did, please like our video on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and stay up to date. Offer any suggestions you've got about things you're looking for and things you want to learn. Really appreciate you guys watching tonight, and yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
And this is Bill from Meat Made Simple. Besides liking us, make sure you share us with your friends. Thank you.